Hello lovelies, how are you all doing today? I hope you are feeling absolutely tickety-boo, fine and dandy. I'm still at home. I'm sort of carrying on from a video or two ago when sitting here chatting about weather and taxes and all that business, and then I suddenly thought, oh, I've been talking a bit too long, turn the camera off. Look, I know there are folk who love the longer videos and you get on with other stuff while I'm nattering away in the corner. It's like you're doing your normal day and you've plonked me in the corner of your kitchen or your living room or even in your garden shed. I natter away and you get on with stuff. Fab. I was just thinking about that and it reminded me of, I've kind of, it's come full circle. When I was 9 at junior school, in the 4th year at junior school, getting ready to leave to go to big school, we had a session one day. I can't really remember much about it, but it was all about what do you want to be when you grow up? What job do you want to do? And Mr. Hardy, oh, I loved Mr. Hardy. He was our class teacher. Such a nice man, such a nice man. I can still picture him in my mind's eye, but more than picturing how he looked, when I remember that time, what I think of is more, it's a feeling, and it was a feeling of kindness and gentleness and nurturing, and a sort of a sense of humour, quite a sort of naughty feeling about him. Anyway, what a fab teacher. So we had this session, what do you want to be when you grow up? We took it in turns, went around the classroom, got to me, and he said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I want to be a professional chatterbox. And he sort of, Vivi, there's no such job, there's no such thing as a professional chatterbox. Well, look what I'm doing now. Paid to talk. I mean, not paid very much, in fairness, and as a full-time profession, you know, it wouldn't work, but unless the channel was massive. I don't want to be massive, but yeah, I've managed to make a tiny bit of living from one of my great joys in life, and that is just having a good old natter. Yeah. By the way, after he'd said there's no such thing as a professional chatterbox, what else would you like to be? I declared that I would like to be a mounted policewoman. Not because I was interested in policing or being a police person. It's the only job I could think of that involved horses. I wanted a job that involved horses. It's like, I know, mounted policewoman, that's what I want to be. There's still a part of me that thinks, I wish my job involved horses. Oh, goodness me. I'm going to get all wistful. Anyway, yeah, no horses in my life. But who knows, you know, when I move, maybe I'll end up, if I'm not in London, I don't want to go rural. I'm not going rural. It's too cut off for me as a non-driver. But maybe I'll be somewhere where there are horses near-ish by, so I can go along every now and again and just kiss their little velvety noses. Oh, horses' noses. Oh, that velvet. There's nothing like it, is there? Right, I'm off track already. So, anyway, where were we? Right, yes, a little update on the tomato seedlings. God knows it's really late, but you know, they're romping away. I did 2 sowings per pot. 2 per pot. There were a couple of pots where I accidentally did 3. I've already pinched out the 3rd one, but I don't know if you can see they're already getting their true leaves. Hang on, a bit awkward. Oh, too wobbly. Can you see? Little teeny tiny true leaves. Brilliant. I sowed them 7, 10, can't remember now whether it was 9 or 10 days ago. So in 9 or 10 days, that's where we're at. I will let them carry on for a few days more, like this, two together, just to see which one in each pot wants to be the stronger one, and then I'll just nip out the other. When I come to get rid of the second one from each pot, I'm not going to pull it out because I don't want to disturb the roots of the one that's staying in. So what I'll do is just a little, teeny tiny pair of scissors, I'll just snip at soil level the one I don't want, leave the stronger one, and then let them grow on for another week or so in this little pot. Put them on, and I mean, literally they will be probably down in the garden in about 2 weeks' time, into the cold frame, bit of hardening off. And it won't be long before they're planted out. Yes, they're tiny, but once they're planted, my experience is that the minute I get them into the soil at the garden, they'll get away. And I think if the weather continues as it has been in terms of rain, we're getting enough moisture, they'll be happy. But also the temperature's a bit of a funny one. Hopefully we are getting warmer. And what I'm also keeping an eye on are the nighttime temperatures, because that actually is key at the moment. Never mind, our daytime temperature isn't really going to drop below 10 or 11 degrees now. It shouldn't, goodness knows. I mean, goodness knows we should be at 18, 19 every day now, but we are hovering at 11 and 12 some days. But anyway, that's beside the point. I'm not worried about the daytime temperatures. They are warm enough, and on sunny days, the sun on the cold frame is even warmer than that. So it's the nighttime temperatures I'm keeping an eye on, because things like tomatoes, peppers, squash, they really, really don't like when the temperature goes below 6 degrees. I actually give myself a cut-off point of 8 degrees, because if it's 6 degrees and then we get a real howling gale, rainstorm coming through one night, really howling, that wind, it lowers the temperature even further, and yeah, they just don't like it. So keeping an eye on the nighttime temperatures. By the time these go down to the garden, it'll be towards the end of May. The nighttime temperatures should have stabilised to being above 8 degrees. It'll be at the stage where the cold frame doors are open. So they will chill down a bit at night, but they'll still get a bit of protection. So hopefully by maybe the first or second week, end of the first week of June, they might go into the garden. I've gone back to the bottle for this because honestly, drinking water from a mug is empty in 2 seconds. Anyway, yes, that's gone and stuff. And actually, when they go out, I normally wouldn't plant tomatoes out until the end of the first week of June anyway. So that will be a normal type planting schedule for me. It's just that they'll probably be a bit smaller. Well, they will be smaller. But yeah, like I said, get them out, let their feet get in that gorgeous clay soil that's so nutrient dense. A few sunshiny days, a few showery days. Hopefully they'll do okay. Put it this way, I wouldn't know whether they would do okay if I hadn't sown them at all. So I'm glad I sowed them. I am going to try a few in the cold frame as well, sowing a few in the cold frame. In fact, by the time you see this, there will be tomatoes sown in the cold frame. And what I'm really delighted about is last year, I'd made that decision. I'm leaving the allotment. Even if I move to a property within the area, I'm leaving the allotment. It's too much to manage these days. This year, I'm already thinking, oh no, I can manage it. But of course, last year we were in drought for months on end, and I had to go to the garden every single day because of watering, and that's what I couldn't manage. So hopefully we'll have some rain this summer, not too much, blight, but we'll have enough that I don't have to do the watering, because that's what killed my knees last summer. Anyway, the point is, because I'd got it into my head, I'm leaving. I didn't do it intentionally, but I think it was a subconscious thing. I didn't do any seed saving of any of my tomato. No, I think I did Rose de Bern and Amish paste, but I didn't save any of my Gardener's Delight, which is what these are. Sorry, I'm pointing to, if I just ripped a leaf, I'm pointing to them because they're just sitting here. I'll put them back in the window in a minute. Yeah, I didn't do any seed saving of them. So this is seed saved from the 2021 harvest. The funny thing, I mean, literally every year when I sow my own saved seeds, I think, oh, I hope they'll be okay. As if somehow or other buying seeds, there's some sort of more of a guarantee than with my own saved seeds. I don't know why I doubt myself every year and my ability to save seeds. I doubt myself every year, and every year I get, well, with that trait, 100% germination. I mean, you'd have to be doing something wrong to get 0 germination from tomatoes. But anyway, they're all up. I'm delighted. They're growing away. It's a bit of an experiment. And look, the bottom line is, if the tomatoes are a total fail this year, they really shouldn't be. I really hope they aren't. But if they are, if they're a total fail because I've just done this too late, well, you know what? It's not the end of the world. It's a lesson learned. I talked, oh God, this was ages ago. About 5 weeks ago, I think. I said about removing potatoes, removing the nightshade family. Okay, did it for a couple of weeks, no discernible difference. But then, and I know 2 weeks isn't a long time, although when it's food intolerances, I'm not talking allergies, whole different ballgame, but when it's an intolerance that sends the body into inflammation, removing the source of that, within a couple of weeks you should start to feel a difference. No difference. I followed that with a week where I was eating tomatoes, potatoes, that whole family, apart from aubergine, eggplant, just because I don't grow them, haven't got any stored, they're expensive to buy. But anyway, potatoes and tomatoes, I ate them twice a day for a week. So whatever I had for lunch, whatever I had for dinner, included them. I thought, right, let's massively overload my system with them. No discernible difference. So I've decided that I'm going to have tomatoes in my diet. And the thing is, I did a ton of reading. I even got one of my ex-nurse chums, not from work, from when I was a student, to do a bit of research for me, because I don't have an academic online account anymore. I really miss it. So I don't have access to, British Medical Journal, or I don't have access to all the science journals anymore. So I was doing my own reading online, couldn't find any proper evidence for this whole nightshade thing. Lots of, apocryphal stories, as in someone says, it worked for me, but no proper scientific trial, no proper scientific studies. So I asked my friend to check. She couldn't find anything either. So I think it's one of those things where people just repeat it, but without any evidence for it. So, there's absolutely no sort of empirical evidence to support the fact that tomatoes make osteoarthritis worse. And also we have to be careful to differentiate between osteoarthritis and rheumatoid arthritis. Anyway, so I'm going to have tomatoes. So I hope my tomatoes grow. But you know what, if they don't, I'll buy tinned tomatoes and just make the most of whatever else does grow in my garden. Right. Oh, yes. This is my grrr from the other day. This stuff drives me insane. I ordered something online. And I had, I had the email saying, here's your tracking number, you follow it, it's out for delivery, whatever. And then this was right back at the beginning of May. I got a second email saying, sorry, your order's going to be delayed because the courier company are really busy. So, okay, whatever. And day before, I've lost track of time, it doesn't matter. Within the last couple of days, I rang the company. It was Marks and Spencer, good old M&S. Now, I don't do a lot of online shopping, not by any means. I don't do a lot of shopping, full stop. You all know that. But M&S is kind of like my go-to. I've got one on that's like a rubbishy substitute. I like a little vest top. I'm not going to show you too much, but a little vest top, just a little strappy vest top. I like to have a vest on a lot of the year because I hate it when the small of my back gets chilly. I don't know if it's tall girl syndrome or quite what it is, but it's that kind of protecting that precious, vulnerable area right in the sort of lower lumbar region, where things can go wonky. Whenever I get a back spasm, a bad back, it's always in that region. So I like to wear a vest, keeps it all kind of snug and lovely. And obviously as we get into the really hot days, I don't wear a vest, but I reckon from like September through till April, this year, May as well, because it's so chilly. And I love the M&S ones because they're really, really long. I hate faffing with my clothes during the day. You know that thing when you feel like you're always having to kind of tuck yourself back in, or you're always having to, tug at the front or, tug at the sleeves. I hate that kind of tugging at clothes all day and being uncomfortable. I want to just get dressed in the morning and get on with my day and just get on with it without having tuck stops every 5 minutes. So anyway, I love the M&S vests because they're really, really long. They come down like over and down over the hips, almost to the bottom of your bottom, as it were. So in other words, they stay tucked in. No adjustments through the day. Brilliant. And they're really reasonable in price. They do a 3-pack for a tenner. So I've been struggling on with some really ratty old ones. I mean, such ratty messes, falling apart, and I've stitched and I've repaired, and I just got to the stage. I was about to do the laundry the other day, and I was about to chuck that week's vests in the wash. I just thought, they're all manky, ratty, horrible, just a mess. I thought, do you know what? Stuff it. I'm going to treat myself to some new vests. I'll get 2 packs. That's 20 quid. Okay, that's a big spend for me, but let's face it, I bought my thermals at the beginning of December. That was my last spend, really. And that was, so December to January, February, March, April, May. So it's 5 months since I've done a spend, really. I thought, and I know that I'll have these vests for years. I'll have them for 4, 5, 6 years before they need replacing. So I didn't bat an eyelid. I thought, yeah, just do it. Get on with it. And at the moment, it's sort of, I'm juggling. Time has been so scarce, juggling so many different things. I mean, like we all do all the time. I'm not saying I'm special. And it's just become so easy, hasn't it, to go online and do an order. I can literally go online and buy some new vests, and the whole thing takes 5 minutes if the computer's already turned on because I'm doing some work. If the computer's off, it'll take 10 minutes. Got to crank the computer up. Come on, get up to speed. But yeah, within 5 minutes, I can do my shopping. Fantastic. Love that. As opposed to my nearest Marks and Spencer's is a bus ride away. On a good run, the bus is 30 minutes each way. Once I get off the bus, it will take me about 5 minutes to walk to M&S. Say I'm in the shop for 10 minutes, that's 15, 20, about an hour and 20 minutes would be the quickest I could do it if the bus came straight away, if there's no waiting for a bus, probably more like an hour and a half. There we go. So an hour and a half to get me vests, or 5 minutes online. I'm going to do it online, of course. But what I forgot about doing online stuff is the nightmare of delivery. Why is it such a... nearly swore. Why is it such a blinking nightmare? Why does it have to be so flipping difficult? So I rang them because 2 weeks on and there'd been no update on the tracking email. I kept going into it and it's got, oh, you know, live tracking, your parcel is with the courier, your parcel is... Anyway, so I rang them up and apparently the parcel had been returned to M&S. So no one bothered to tell me that it's been returned. I'm still waiting 2 weeks later. I said, why was it returned? And she said, because they couldn't find your address. I went nuts. I didn't go nuts on the phone to the lass. It's not her fault. I went nuts inside my head. And I did tell her, I went through this with her and I said, please make a note of this somewhere. And she kept saying, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And I said, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. I'm not having a go at you, honestly. So, apparently they can't find my address. Well, that is a load of farmyard manure because 2 reasons. One, remember the thermals? The thermals from Marks and Spencer's? They found their way here. No problem. Number 2, I live on a blimmin' main road. I live on a main road that has a name. The road is a named road. My building is a numbered building. You can see it from the street, the number. It's not like I live in a really rural area, up a track that doesn't have a name, to a house that is not numbered or road. It doesn't have a road name or a number. It's just called, I don't know, you know, Hilltop House or something. I live on a flipping main road. Put it this way, if they're making deliveries to any of my friends that live within a mile or 2 miles of where I live, if they're making a delivery to someone else, they have to come down my road. It's the only main road through my bit of town. It's stupid. They have to drive past my house to make all their other deliveries. So this is what I said to them when I said, I think he's lying, or they've lied, because A, you've delivered to me here before, B, I live on a main road, and C, and this was the bit that really annoyed me, that made me think they are just lying, but they've got us over a barrel, haven't they? Anyway, the reason I think they're lying is because when I ordered them, then I got the first tracking email to say it's with our couriers and it should be out for delivery. Let's say that they said it should be out for delivery on Thursday. And I'd looked at the weather forecast and Friday was going to be lashing with rain and Thursday was going to be dry. And I thought, oh no, I don't want to stay in all day, because you know it's like delivery 8 a.m, 8 p.m. I don't want to stay in all day. I need to get to the garden. I need to be working in the garden. So I went on their tracking email to see, could I change the day to the Friday? So I went and they said, and I couldn't change it to the Friday. Bearing in mind, I think this was the Monday or Tuesday I got the email. So I can't change the day, but I thought, oh, I know what I can do. I can change the destination, the delivery address. And this is what's genius for my area. Literally, hang on, I've got to work out their address. They're at number, and I'm at number, so where is that? They are eight doors up the road, 8 doors up the road from me. It's at the beginning of our little high street, is a shop that is, the delivery by the couriers, by the way, were every, you know, they used to be My Hermes. I'm sure a ton of you have got horror stories. But anyway, 8 doors up, there is an every parcel pick-up, drop-off shop. In other words, I've used them for years. I've not had problems, fortunately, but whenever I've sent an order out that's too heavy for, say, Royal Mail, I use every, so I take it to that shop and I drop it at that shop. And for a delivery, like my Marks and Spencer's delivery, I can redirect it to there, and then at my own convenience, the next day or 2 days later, I can go and pick the parcel up. Brilliant. What a brilliant system. So easy. And also, you'd think for the delivery company, they'd love it if everybody picked the shop rather than their home address, because then the van driver can just go there and shove everything in the shop, and then we all individually go up and collect. So for them to say they couldn't find my address, what absolute farmyard droppings. Absolute nonsense, because it's their own flipping pickup shop. It's infuriating, isn't it? But also what was really infuriating, and again, when I was on the phone with this woman, and trust me, I can be blowing up in my head, but I can stay really calm on the exterior, and I stay calm and polite, because it's never, the person at the call centre, it's never their fault. So I mentioned all this about the couriers to say, they've been to my address before, I've had dozens of parcels over the years delivered here, but in any case, I gave them the shop address, and I said, but this is where M&S have let me down. Why didn't you email me to say that the parcel's been taken back to you, and why haven't I had a refund? Why am I now on the phone chasing it? She's like, oh, I'll make sure that happens. A refund is usually within 5 days. And I said, I'd really like it today, please. Anyway, sure enough, within 5 minutes, it popped up on the computer. She got the refund sorted. Yay. So, I mean, what a waste of time. 14 days later, no vests, and I'm chilly. So this one that I've got on, I don't know why. Anyway, I've ended up with these. I've had these in the cupboard for ages. It still had the sticker on it, and I think it's because I think they were 2 for a £5 in Sainsbury's, and I think out of desperation I bought them, worn one and decided not to wear the others. The rest, I'm using this one and the other one that had one, but the others, they're going to go to charity. They're clean, they're brand new, they're still labelled, because they're so short. I'm doing tuck stops all the time, continually tucking in, getting chilly kidneys. Anyway, so the thing is, though, here's the frugal girl bit. I do still need some vests, so I'm going to go to M&S. I'm going to go there in person, and I should have just done that in the first place. Who knew? I mean, I would, you know me anyway, I would always rather do my business and my transactions locally, face-to-face, in person, because I like to chat to the shopkeeper, back to that professional chatterbox. I've gotten to know all the shopkeepers over the years, and it's always a pleasure. I pop in, I need one little thing, end up chatting about stuff, the weather, the garden, the coronation, whatever it is. So I'm going to go to this M&S, and it's a bus ride. But here's the dumb thing. So in London, all our bus fares are a flat rate of £1.65 per journey, which would mean it's £3.30 is the return fare. The postage was £3.50. So actually hopping on the bus is cheaper. It's just a matter of time. It takes more time, obviously, than doing the internet. The other thing with London buses that's great is because obviously London's a big town, and to get to work, if you work in the centre of London, it's quite possible you might need to take 2 buses. You know, one, if you work here and live here, you might have to take one bus to here, change, and then another bus like that. And the system changed a few years ago, and it's great that if you have to change buses, so long as that change is done within an hour of getting on the first bus, there's no more charge. And it was done in recognition of the fact that a lot of people have to take 2, sometimes even 3 buses to work in the morning. Let's not charge them 3 bus fares before they even get to work. Let's charge 1 bus fare if it can all be done within the hour. So here's what I'm thinking. My little frugal head starts ticking straight away, thinking, oh, I've got to go to M&S in person. That's a bus ride. What else can I do on the buses? If I've got to take a bus, what else can I do? And then I suddenly thought, do you remember this little fella from the end of March? I bought, if you remember, I bought 2 different grout treatment type things because I didn't know what my tiles would need. When I was in B&Q, the guy I asked was unsure as well. I'm really glad. So one of them was a cleaner and one was a kind of a re-grout. And I'm so glad I went with the re-grout first and opened it and used it because it worked. I think this one wouldn't have worked, but I would have had to open it to find out it didn't work. So, because I haven't opened it and I've got my little receipt, I can take it back. I think it said 90 days. Is there somewhere on there that says 90 days returns? Oh, crikey, what's the date? It was the end of March, wasn't it? 21st of March. So I've got until the 21st of June. I mean, it's crazy, isn't it? That's a month away. That's the summer solstice, isn't it? Isn't the 21st of June the summer solstice? And here I am talking about buying vests and only just coming out of winter. Anyway, so I am in time. I mean, I would have checked and I had an awareness that this needed doing. Now, to get to B&Q, I take a bus. Ooh, that doesn't sound... That makes me think of a gurgly tummy. So I've got to take a bus to B&Q anyway. And then from B&Q, I can take... It's not a direct route, but I can take 2 buses up to Marks and Spencer's. However, they're both routes from leaving B&Q, that bus and then the onward bus, they are really, really regular services. I mean, like, you know, every 2 or 3 minutes in some cases. So let's say, for example, I get on the bus at 10 a.m. It'll take about, at that time of day, or I might leave at half an hour, but let's say 10 o'clock, I could be at the door of B&Q in 15 minutes, get my return done, 5 minutes. So that's 20 minutes since I first got on the bus. Back to the bus stop, wait 5 minutes. 25 minutes, I'll be on the next bus. I won't have to pay. Then that bit of the route to my next change is about 15 minutes on a good day. It's 25, 35, 40. So I could get all 3 buses and jump out for B&Q. I could get it all done in an hour, in which case it'll cost 1 bus fare. I'll have to leg it. That'll be one of those occasions where I'll have to not be a chatterbox when I go into B&Q. I won't stand there and tell them how pleased I am with how the kitchen turned out and oh my goodness, that grout stuff was brilliant. I may tell them about the grout stuff so that it's information they can pass on to future customers. I'll just keep an eye on the time. I don't know why I do that. I don't wear a watch. But yeah, it looks like it should be doable in an hour. So 1 bus fare to return me grout cleaner and go and buy two packs of vests. What had I written down there? Oh yeah, I just made a note about this whole kind of online buying business that I just don't seem to have good experiences. Remember, I bought the printer online and it was bust, and I wanted to take it to the shop, the local. There's a next to B&Q. There's a PC World. I could have taken it there. No, because it's an online order. You have to have it refunded online and do it. And it's like, oh, if I bought it in the shop, I could have just returned it to the shop. And I'm kind of always saying to myself, don't buy stuff online, Vivi, because you always seem to have a nightmare either with returning it or with them not delivering on the day they say they're going to deliver. Or I much prefer to do business in person, face to face. However, I do acknowledge that online shopping has, you know, it's been an absolute revelation for so many people. I think about people who say, have mobility issues, being able to shop online that's independence for that person. They don't have to rely on either someone else doing their shopping for them or taking them to shops because of, like I said, because of a mobility issue. Brilliant independence for people who are, mobility issues, housebound, even things like sort of, some of the mental health conditions, which means someone is really scared to leave their home. They can still have a world by being able to do things online. And goodness knows, I mean, during lockdown, I think everybody was ordering their whole life through the post, weren't they? And you know what, for the most part, let's face it, those delivery drivers during lockdown, I mean, they kept us all going, didn't they? So I don't want to knock delivery drivers per se. This is just one that was naughty and lied to his boss to say that the address was not found. It's not true. I had, for instance, I had that lovely hamper the other day that was from DHL, and again that was one that I'd gone online to rearrange the delivery day for. The tracking was fantastic. They came exactly that morning. I had an email to say, I think they gave me a window of 2 till 4 in the afternoon, and then at about 11 in the morning it had been updated and it said 2 till 3, and sure enough he was here about 10 past 2. Friendly, polite, smiley, lovely. So I'm not by any means knocking couriers, and I'm certainly not knocking online shopping, because like I said, I think both have been an absolute lifeline for so many people for myriad reasons. I just don't seem to have much luck with it. And then I forget the lesson that I was supposed to learn. Maybe it's because it's so long between doing bits of online shopping, and then I'll do some online shopping 6 months later and there'll be a cock up involved, and I'll say, how could I forget? Right, that's it. Never again am I online shopping. 6 months later, I've forgotten. Crikey, time flies. Time flies when we're having a chat. I say we, I'm having the chat, aren't I? I have a suspicion that I could talk. Oh my God, imagine a video of this. I could probably talk for 5 hours. Obviously, I take breaths every now and again. Yeah, I'm sure I could. I'm sure if you gave me a couple of subjects, I could talk for 5 hours, a 5-hour long video. Don't worry, that's not going to happen. Unless it was a sponsored event. No, don't worry, it's not going to happen. I mean, I know that I could, because whenever I see Richard and Paul, I haven't seen them for a while, even though we talk on the phone, I literally go and talk at them for 3 days. Actually, in fairness, they talk quite a bit too. We're talkers. It's lovely. But, excuse me. I am aware time is ticking on. So, I keep saying, I've got this book I'm going to talk about. I'm not going to get it all done today. But what I am going to mention is this thing about islands that I've been mentioning recently. So this came up because it's Paul's fault. Paul sent me a photograph from him when... How old were you in that picture, darling? About 12, maybe? I can't remember. Anyway, it's a picture of him and a bunch of pals. There's about 10 boys in the picture. And they're at the local pool, but it looks like it's one of these Lido pools, an outside pool that's right next to the sea. And there are diving boards at various levels. And it's all these kids, these lads hanging out at the pool for the day. You know, they're sort of leaning against the diving board, standing on the end, some are splashing around. Really cute picture. And Paul wrote, "Which one is me?" I was looking at all the little... I was like, couldn't work it out. When he told me, as soon as he said it was him, I was like, oh, yeah, spotted, yeah, no doubt. Anyway, it started me thinking a little train of thought, because I was thinking, first of all, lucky devil living and growing up by the sea. I mean, I had a lot of time by the sea, but we had to go to it. We didn't live right next to the sea. What a lucky kid living by the sea. What a lucky kid living on an island surrounded by sea, da da da. And then it got me thinking about, oh, you know, he's an island boy. He's from an island. Does living on an island, does it make people a bit different? I don't mean weird. I don't mean that. But is there something ingrained in their personalities that's because they live on an island? But then I was thinking, well, hang on, Vivi, you live on an island. What are you talking about? It's a big island. Well, if you count me as British, I live on an island. If you count me as English, I'm not on an island because obviously I have the border with Wales and the border with Scotland. But essentially, I live on an island too. Does that give me a different personality to mainland Europeans? Don't know. Anyway, so it got me thinking about the whole island thing. I'm going to have to look at notes because then I started Googling. You know what it's like when you start to think about something and you answer a question to yourself, but it leads to another question and another question and another question, that kind of rabbit holing of questions. So I thought to myself, well, yeah, I am an islander because I live in the British Isles. I live on one of the islands I live on the biggest island, but I live on an island within the British Isles. And I was thinking, how many islands make up the British Isles? Do any of you know? Do you want to have a guess? Go on, have a guess. So I did quite a bit of looking up, and it's really hard to get a definitive answer on this one. However, the one I went for, what qualifies an island? You know, a pebble that sticks up from the water, you could say, oh, it's an island. So the figures I'm using are based on islands which are half an acre or more above the water, even at high tide. Because obviously at low tide, we have all sorts of little islands appear, but this is at high tide. That island is still there, you can still land on it, whatever. There's half an acre of land above water. So go on, have a guess how many islands comprise the gorgeous British Isles. Tick, 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 tick. Have a think, have a think, have a think. If you'd have asked me, or my guess beforehand, I was thinking, it's hundreds. It's got to be hundreds. So I had a guesstimate of, I thought, maybe 1,000. 1,500, is that too many? So have you had a guess yet? Write it on a piece of paper. Don't be saying out loud afterwards, well, that's what I guessed. Put it on a piece of paper. No cheating. Islands of half an acre or more, whatever stage the tide is at, in other words, even at high tide, number 4,400. That's mad. Oh, excuse me. Madness. Oh, what a glorious interruption that was. For a second when the phone went, my heart sank because someone very dear to me is in hospital at the moment, and I just thought, my first thought was that phone call was to say that this person isn't doing great. But it wasn't. It was, oh, Paul! Yay! It's like, what's that film? Is it Beetlejuice, isn't it? You say the person's name 3 times and it conjures them. So just when I was talking about Paul's photograph prompting all those thoughts of islands, he rang. Yay! We've chatted and chatted on and on and on. We've laughed, we've cried, we've laughed. I've had to kind of sort my makeup out. He made me cry. Nice crying. And I quizzed him about the islands, some of the stuff I'm quizzing you. And he didn't know either. So, yeah, it's a good game to play with your mates, a good kind of pub trivia type game. How many islands are there in the British Isles that are half an acre or more and are above water even at high tide? So 4,400, mad. I asked Paul, so I said I guessed at about 1,000, maybe 1,500. Paul guessed, what did he guess? 850? Then he said, oh, maybe lower. Now here's one. How many of those do you think are inhabited? Excuse me. How many of our islands are inhabited? Go on, guess. Tick, 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 tick. Ding, 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 ding. The answer is quite staggering, actually. 210. Wow. Yeah, I was quite surprised at that, and it made me think. So then I started playing the game of how many of the islands can I name? You know, we have obvious islands like Shetland, Orkney, but of course they're Shetland and Orkney really, it's kind of a name for a group. There's lots of smaller islands, and then we think of the Channel Islands and our Paul, our Guernsey boy, our very own Guernsey boy. Coincidentally, my mum right now is in Jersey. She's having another holiday. I said, when you're there, can you wave over to Paul's mum in Guernsey? Hi, Mary. I don't know if she ever watches. But yeah, so how many of them can you name? That's one thing. But also, how many of them have you visited? So I started to think about this for myself. The obvious ones. The Isle of Wight, because I have then had friends on the Isle of Wight. Went there for the first time. Actually, going back to the very beginning of this video, in my last year at junior school when I was 9, Mr. Hardy and our class, and there was one other class at the same level, the same year in school, our two classes, as a leavers thing, we went to the Isle of Wight for a couple of weeks. I think it was like a confidence building thing that here we are at the top of the school right now, but then we're going to go to a big school and we're going to be the little teeny tiny fish in the big, big sea. So I went to the Isle of Wight for the first time with Mr. Hardy and I can't remember was it Miss Saunders taught the other class? I can't remember. But anyway, so the Isle of Wight and the Isle of Anglesey. Isle of Anglesey, quite a lot. It was nearish to home. And that's another coincidental because in my leaving year at high school, so when I was 15, had I turned 16 yet? I'm a summer baby, so I was always the last. We had a long weekend, just a few of us, a long weekend in Anglesey doing outward bound stuff. So windsurfing and kayaking around Anglesey. But yeah, how many can you name and how many have you been to? So my list of been to is the Isle of Wight, Anglesey, Lindisfarne, which is Holy Island up on the Northumberland coast. Oh, I loved Lindisfarne. That's reached by a causeway. So it's a high tide, low tide island. Another high tide, low tide island is Osea, which a lot of people won't know unless they're quite local. It's an island off Essex. So again, it's cut off at high tide. I love that. I'll talk about that in a second. Next door to Osea, also visited, is Mersey, which many more people will know. It's considerably more inhabited. Osea, I think it was like 3 houses on Osea. I was very lucky to have friends there. So yeah, private island, get on. The sea comes up, cuts you off. It's just you and your mates. Lovely. Lundy, which always makes me want to say Lundy, Mardy, Mecredy. Lundy is an island in the Bristol Channel. So for those who don't know the UK very well, it's if you go south from Wales or north from Devon, right in the middle is Lundy. Famous for the puffin colonies. That was a great visit. Brownsea Island, which is in the middle of Poole Harbour, which some of you may know from Boy Scouts, but others of you may know it's famous for its red squirrels. I know it because it's a hop and a skip from where my gran and granddad lived. Open air theatre, Brownsea Island, red squirrels, lovely. Is that my islands? Yeah. So I could only think of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can only think of 7 islands that I visited in the UK. You know, I've had holidays on the west coast of Scotland, but never managed to make it over to any of the islands. But there's all those, the Inner Hebrides, the Outer Hebrides, Orkney, Shetland, Channels. What was the other one I was thinking of? The Isle of Man, massive island. As the small islands go, the Isle of Man is big. But yeah, all these islands all around the country. And then I started to have this little fantasy, 210 inhabited islands. I was thinking, imagine a project of maybe taking a couple of years to do it, of visiting each of the inhabited islands all around the British Isles. That would be amazing. Write a book afterwards, write 10 books. Anyway, yeah. And that all stemmed from that photograph that Paul sent of him and his chums on the diving boards at the pool next to the sea. And thinking about the island life. And there is something hugely appealing to me. My lovely friend Jan, hi Jan, she lives on Vashon Island off the coast from Seattle, gets to and fro on a ferry. There's something really appealing to me about sort of being cut off. I mean, I've talked about this all sorts of times throughout the years about sort of wilderness living and in the depths of Alaska or, you know, Yukon Territory in Canada, wherever it is. And I think an island is a similar sort of fantasy, dream, wish. But it sort of feels safer than doing those kind of cold places. Just the idea of being somewhere where you have your needs met and you have maybe a few fellow travellers, a few neighbours, a few friends, but that essentially it's this sort of quiet, private place that it's almost like pulling up the drawbridge, slamming down the portcullis, bringing up the drawbridge, you're surrounded by a moat. The outside world can't get in. I think that's something that probably a lot of us long for, isn't it? This idea of, I don't want to be cut off from society. I love society, I love people, but I just want to shut out the stuff that I don't like the news, like all the weird whack jobs out there who are spouting mad stuff on YouTube, and I just want to shut it all out and be on my island with a few friends who are simple like me. I don't mean simple as in intellectually, I mean simple as in their desires and wants, and grow vegetables and read books and share ideas and make music, and all on a little island. I need to play the lottery, don't I? I need to play the lottery, win a load of money, buy a little island and have my own little hippie commune there. Yeah, life's never that simple, I know, before anyone reminds me. But yeah, so play that game with your friends, your Brit friends. How many islands are there in the UK? How many of them are inhabited? How many of them can you name? And how many of them have you been to? And maybe that will spark some ideas for some travel adventures, because we don't need to be jumping on aeroplanes and going halfway around the world for a holiday or an adventure, do we? When we have this gorgeous, gorgeous country full of islands to explore and waterways to splash about in. I want to go to the seaside now. Stop talking about the seaside, you'll drive yourself crazy. All right, lovelies, I have chatted on for long enough today, so I'm not sure what I'm about to do next in terms of videos. A video by the sea would be nice, wouldn't it? That's not going to happen for a while. It may happen one day. Yeah, I don't know what we're doing next, but we'll do something again together soon. But until then, happy playing the island game. Happy getting into your garden as and when the weather allows. Happy looking forward to summer, sunshine, warmth after this. We haven't had spring, have we? I think we're just going to fast forward into summer. Yeah. Happy whatever. Look after yourselves. Look after each other. Look after the strangers in your hood. And yeah, maybe see each other in the garden soon, looking after plants. That would be nice. Anyway, until then, I'm getting distracted. In my head, I'm already at the seaside. I apologise, I drifted then, didn't I? I'm at the beach in my head. Yeah, I'm going to spend the afternoon in my head at the beach. Okay, until the next one, cheerio.